time for today's Hot Mics, Hot Takes. Rob Silverstein. You know what? Let's roll. Our executive producer, Rob Silverstein. We've only been on doing Hot Mics for 5 months, and he took his second vacation. You're in a startup, right? You're doing a startup, really, where everyone's just like sweating their pants off. There he is in Saint-Tropez, everybody. Look at this. He's dancing on the tables right there, the white shorts. He's got the shirt wide open. What do you say?
I look very fit there, though.
He has a friend who is very rich, and he gets to get the invite. You are the plus one. Look at this dancing going on. Look at what are you doing? You're fanning?
I don't know.
Are you sweating?
It was at...
Get out of here.
It was at a club called Lulu.
Oh, everybody knows
in
Lulu.
Saint-Tropez, and it was it's like the wildest club I've ever been to. And my friend, who we've had on the show, gives most of his money away to the Change Reaction, which helps millions of people.
He's plugging his friend's charity work now because he flew him first class.
He did not fly me.
No, stop.
No, he did not fly me.
No, this is crazy.
We flew ourselves. We weren't at 287 foot.
So how bad would it be if I suggested that maybe your friend scraped a little off the top of the charity and stuck it in his pocket? What would you do? Would that be deadly for you? Because then you'd be off the boat.
It wouldn't be true. That's just
Of course it's not. He's one of the great men of all time.
No question. All right.
Maybe I get on the boat if I keep going.
It's not a boat. A boat is not 280 feet. It's a ship.
280 foot. Oh, yeah. You had to go. I'm glad to have worked double time. Anyway.
Yes. All right, Bill, let's talk about Karen Reed. You teased it. How much money, and I have some expertise in this.
Yeah.
How much money do you think she'll get for that first interview? You know, a lot of the lawyers are talking. We're going to be talking to some of the lawyers this week, we hope. You've been in contact with all of them. They're not getting paid. They got paid for representing
I think
her.
Karen Reed should get, I'd like to see her get a couple $1 million for this. I'd like to see $2 million for her to do an interview, because it's not just going to be like a morning show interview. I think it's an ABC News, because they've been on top of this with 2020 in a major way, you know, doing the McAlberts and everything. I think there's no way they can't make that money back, and there's no way they can't, sponsor it out. She does a 2020, and they run multiple pieces on Good Morning America. I think you're going to see, I actually think they're going to do the interview tomorrow, and you'll see the pieces Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday night on 2020.
Ooh, okay.
That's my guess.
You think $2 million?
$2 million would be minimum. I'd like to see her get $5 million.
All right. Let me tell you about a situation that you were sort of involved in, but you were the host of Access Hollywood back then. But when Anna Nicole Smith died, I believe it was 2007. All right, there were two gentlemen involved in the custody of Danny Lynn, Larry Burkhead and Howard K. Stern.
Howard K. Stern. Make sure you
get Howard Stern, but Howard K. Stern.
Yeah.
And we were at Access Hollywood, and Entertainment Tonight had a deal with Howard K. Stern. I don't know what they paid Howard K. Stern, but he would only do interviews with them. So the court would end. They had the big custody battle, which Larry Burkhead eventually won. They had him on everything, and you couldn't get near Howard K. Stern. So we decided we needed Larry Burkhead, the other side of this.
Yeah, we're in a competition. We're fighting.
So Jeff Zucker was running the network back then. He's a news guy at heart. He's not a sitcom guy or anything of that nature. Him and I spoke, and they couldn't pay it through the news division because that was against news guidelines. So they had Bravo pay the $1 million. And they did one special with it. And then we did a month of programming. And we didn't spend a thin dime.
It was disgusting. I remember it.
It was $1 million. You called me at one time. You asked me, you said, if we're going to continue on this, Anna Nicole Smith, can I just have the month off?
Can I please have the month off? I cannot talk about Anna Nicole Smith anymore ad nauseum. Right. You rode that thing like Malaysian Flight 350.
Tony Potts was there. We were down at the Atlantis in the Bahamas. That's where we spent a month. We were at they have a Nobu in there. We're at Nobu every night, but it was incredible. $1 million to Larry Burkhead.
Larry Burkhead got $1 million. So if Larry Burkhead gets $1 million,
and that's years ago.
This is Karen Reed.
But actually, networks had more money back then too. So that's a big figure. I don't think it's going to be $2 million, Bill.
I know,
but it's going to be a good amount.
I'd like to see her do that. By the way,
that information I just gave out about Burkhead and everything, that's never been revealed before. That's
how much do you think Entertainment Tonight paid Mary Kay Letourneau? Remember when she slept with Billy Flowow, her 15-year-old student? Entertainment Tonight Boy, they were the dirtiest of all, though. They paid
The worst.
They would play the sleaziest people on the planet. How much do you think they paid her? I think it was definitely like
at least $500,000.
Oh, more than that.
I mean, I don't know, but that was, and I'm like, your entertainment tonight.
Wait.
What
And
does
then
Mary Kay and Billy Falao?
Was it Joey Buttafuoco or Mary?
Well,
was it the Lolita? Was it the Long Island
well,
Lolita?
they had the Long Island Lolita. They also had Octomom. They did a big
They
thing.
paid Octomom. Oh my God, where is Octomom?
Octomom. They also had, this was a terrible story, but out of Australia, there were the anorexic twins. And they did like a month on anorexic twins. I don't know what they paid. But what that has to do with entertainment, that's why I always argued. What does any of that nonsense have to do with Entertainment Tonight? That was you and I used to go crazy about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. We got Nick Rocco, by the way, one of Karen Reed's good friends. He's in the chat here. Look at all the people. Here's Honestly. She says, nice to see you, Nick, in the chat. Thanks for all you've done for Karen. So much of what you said and did mattered hugely. Pretty amazing. Oh, here's one on our topic. Casey Anthony was paid $200,000 years ago, which means Karen Reed should get paid $10 million US.
She's not getting $10 million.
She's not getting $10 million.
No.
I wish she would, though. I think so. I mean, she did. Look.
Who's claiming $200,000?
Octomom is doing good for her. Oh, look at this. Octomom is doing good. Her kids are grown and they're with her, says Jay Brad in the chat there. Nice. Oh, man. I like what.
Bill,
Octomom was nice.
Who did Octomom look like?
She looks like the new Cheryl Burke.
Who did she look like?
Oh, Cheryl Burke right now
I know.
looks like Octomom.
Right.
Who
Octomom
did
looked a little like Angelina Jolie back in the day. She did.
That is the greatest thing Octomom could ever be told.
She did.
Yeah, look at this. Free Turtle Boy, says Bob Bergman. Why, is he in trouble? I don't think he's in trouble.
Well, Turtle Boy was in a little trouble, but I think he's gotten out of that trouble.
Yeah,
Harassing witnesses, things of that nature. He was accused of, but I think Turtle Boy's
People
fine.
like the $10 million number here. Give the
She's
girl
not getting
$10
$10 million.
I think she deserves $10 million minimum. I'm telling you what, Karen Reed hasn't worked in 3.5 years. She's got to pay some bills. And how much do we give? How about should we offer money? Let's offer money from Hot Mics to Higgins.
We're offering our money?
I'm offering
for
Brian
Higgy
Higgins
to come on.
Yeah, I'm going to offer him $5.
You know what you called the Hig?
$5, Higgy.
What did you call the Hig?
Big galoot. What I call him? What I call him?
It wasn't a galoot, but it was just like a galoot.
A big lug.
You called him,
It was a great big
you
lug.
called him a lug.
All right, let's
All right,
go.
Bill, let's go Caitlyn Clark.
Yeah.
She's the face of the WNBA, and here are the stats to prove it. Indiana Fever games are sold out, 17,000 fans every game. They used to get like 7,000 or 8,000 before she started. When she plays anywhere, WNBA attendance doubles, okay? Viewership, the 22 games she's been on, 1 million people watch. They used to get 100,000 people.
At best.
She's credited with generating 20% or more of the revenue, including attendance, media, merchandise, team, everything. Valuations have skyrocketed. But here's the issue. She's getting beaten up in these games, Bill.
I know.
There's a hatred of her by some of the players in the league, which makes no sense.
Well, people are trying. There's a certain right. Isn't there a certain like lobby group that's trying to suggest that it's racist and like go after the white chick? I don't think so.
Well, you have a.
I think it's jealousy. It's just,
right. Of course, you have a majority black sport, and maybe the best or the most popular player is Caitlyn Clark, a white woman.
Well, look at the rap world forever. It was Eminem for a long period of time, and in golf, it was Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods, and he was embraced because he's like, if these ratings go up, we're all going to make more money. Yeah. Everybody in the WNBA is going to do better because of Caitlyn Clark. And the fact that they're going after her. So some people are suggesting she should leave the WNBA and form her own league, which is never going to happen. Okay.
Form her own league.
Right. She can't form her own league. I mean,
she's not the Saudi government.
Okay.
I mean, she could. She could go to the Saudis and say, give me the live.
Saudis will do that.
Give me live basketball.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just, if you watch some of the video of how she gets thrown around and picked on. Now she has a teammate now who's absolutely gorgeous, by the way. I'm throwing that in there. Who's protecting her? She's like Dave Schultz, member of the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Schultz, sure.
Right, and Kelly. Those two guys protected the Bobby Clarks.
Her teammates need to step up around her like a hockey player would their goaltender. You got to protect her. But your point about she's elevating the game and the paychecks for everybody. This to me is the Howard Stern rule. I started as a radio disc jockey for 6 years. I was in radio, and Howard Stern started getting paid a ton of money. Radio guys were always like whatever. But then Howard Stern broke through in a massive way, and he got these huge contracts, and all these radio guys were jealous and angry and like, oh, Howard. Everybody starts to make more money, marginally more,
Right.
depending on what your impact is. But he elevated for everybody. He changed radio and made guys got guys paid.
And that's what Tiger did, and that's what Caitlyn Clark is doing. You know who also did that? Magic and Bird did that back in the day.
But
the NBA Finals, they just had the highest rated game in like 8 years last night. NBA Finals back then were on tape delay. They weren't even live. And then Magic and Bird came in, and bam, the ratings went. I was at CBS. The ratings went through the roof, and now the NBA is, besides the NFL, is the number one product out there. I know sometimes you don't like the game, but still, big stars.
I don't love the
Then Michael
professional
Jordan came along, and he elevated it to a level that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Then LeBron James came along. Who's the next LeBron? We don't know that yet. Maybe Cooper Flagg, who will be drafted on Wednesday. I believe Wednesday is the draft. Okay.
Kid
Bill,
from Maine.
Let's talk about Brad Pitt.
Anytime.
I didn't
He's
know this,
dreamy.
that he went to AA after a split from Angelina. I didn't know this.
Well, you knew he was sober.
Right, but I didn't know he went to AA, and now he's talking about it. He said he was a bit shy when he went there. He goes, here's what he says. I was
He
pretty
should
much...
be. He's Brad Pitt.
Right. Of course.
There
I don't
goes
know
the
what-
anonymous.
I
would just
don't
call
know
it
what he was.
A. We tried.
I remember when Pat O'Brien told me he was going to AA, he goes, I want to go to celebrity AA. That's what he said. Because I just can't go to regular AA. I need to go to a celebrity AA. I said, all right, Pat,
They got
whatever the
books in-
AA is, you go to. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous. So no one's supposed to know you're even there.
Right.
Let's get that straight. So here's what Brad said. I was pretty much on my knees. I was really open. I was trying anything and everyone. Anything anyone threw at me. It was a difficult time. I needed rebooting. I needed to wake the F up in some areas, and it just meant a lot to me.
Well, yeah, Bradley Cooper is the one that got through to him, and he credits Bradley Cooper for helping him get sober. I think Bradley Cooper credits like Robert Downey Jr., who credits Mel Gibson. They have this, there's this pass it on chain. Will Arnett is in there somewhere, Jason Bateman. You think about this, it's like Brad Pitt's career probably would have been great if he was drinking a bunch or if he wasn't, because people like a guaranteed thing or a safe thing, and he's like a safe casting, right, for a studio. So he'll always do, he would have been fine. But I have noticed people who had these problems, when they clear them up, their career takes off. I'll never forget the conversation I had with Jason Bateman, and he couldn't get a job. He could not get a gig. He actually was in the running to be the "Can you hear me now" guy. Can you hear me now? The Verizon commercial.
Right.
Couldn't get it. The other guy, the guy we didn't know, or now we know, but the glasses guy got the gig. But it was almost Bateman. He's like, I can't get anything. And he's raging. He's putting it up his nose and he's drinking it. He's raging his pants off. And he's like, I got to cut this out. He cuts it out. 2 weeks later, he gets Arrested Development. The rest is history. Now Ted Sarandos is sending him the Netflix jet wherever he wants to go. And look at Bradley Cooper. What was he doing? Fox's Hell's Kitchen or some kind of weird cooking show. He got it took off. Will Arnett took off.
You mentioned Downey.
Robert Downey Jr.
Iron
He would have died. But
He's
he
in
took
prison.
off.
Man,
He was in prison.
He went to prison.
So I don't know.
So remember, Brad had that terrible moment on the airplane. Something we never actually found out complete, but
We know
something happened on that airplane. They were all together with the kids because his kids. One of the children, I think, has a problem with Brad.
I think a few of them have a problem with Brad, and I think Brad, he's drinking because he wants to numb himself from the agony he's in. He got away from Angelina. They were a toxic match. I think, the whole giant family thing happened. He kept trying to please her and please her and please her, and then he drank to numb and numb and numb, and he finally got himself out of there. And I wish he had a better relationship with his kids. That's a sad thing.
Yeah, I hope that at some point can turn around because that's not good.
Let's say that we believe it will turn around,
Right.
and he's got the best chance of it turning around is in the state that he's in right now.
I don't know what she says on the other side of this. That doesn't probably help the situation.
I think she doesn't like him.
Yeah.
I think there's a hatred there.
Right. Bill, when I was on this trip that we discussed earlier, people were asking me about our show, and they wanted to know about the Diddy trial. And I said, we haven't really done much on it, and they wanted to know why. Why don't you like covering it?
I don't like covering the Diddy trial because
of what he looks like on the thing.
I'm looking for a better artist. I don't like the artist that does the drawing of him. That does not look like Diddy, okay? So if you're not going to be real about it, get a better caricaturist. No. I just think every detail is so unbelievably disgusting that it just makes me sick. You know, from baby oil freak-offs and some guy named the Punisher. All I can think of is disgusting STDs like all over the place, and like gross, sweaty, tired, ecstasy, hungover people laying around feeling depleted of every decent thing in them. It's gross.
Well, the defense.
I feel sad for everybody that got hoodwinked by the guy, but he is disgusting. And whether he gets off on this trial or not, he's just ugh.
Well, the defense rests tomorrow, it appears. So this is coming to the end.
It's coming down to it, huh?
Right. So we're going to find out what is, if he's going to go to prison or stay in prison or not. And I think we'll probably have to talk about it.
Do you think he's going to get? I think he's going to get off.
I don't think so. There's too many text messages.
And it might be a situation of like, I don't know that all the evidence is like a slam dunk for guilty, but he is so gross, and the jury may just be like, ugh, he can't be out.
What's interesting about this, Bill, is too, you have spent a lot of time with him.
I have.
At the Access Hollywood days, and so did I. There's an incredible picture that I actually sent my kids because it popped up of him in our control after he was on the show with you and Kit. He came in the control room and had fun with us. There's a picture of him and I, sitting at the controls. I'm like, and I flew with him to Cannes, not with him, but he was on the plane to Cannes with me one year. Went to the film festival. He invited us to his boat with Maria Menounos. We did a great shoot with him. He was always incredibly appealing and nice. And then there's this other side of him that we had no clue. We didn't have any clue about this, Bill.
No, there's some kind of burning anger in there, and like hatred of, I don't know. No amount of success could cure whatever that cancer is in there with him. He's just a sick man.
Bill, did you bring up Mobland season 2 earlier, or did you not get to that? I don't remember.
I got to Mobland season 2, and I have to tell you, before we, as we wrap up here, it is the best show on television. Have you not seen? I am such a junkie. Right now, I told you earlier, I'm watching The Waterfront. I'm watching The Waterfront because, well, you told me everyone's talking about it. So yes. I was looking for something yesterday. And being a slightly addictive personality, I banged out 5 episodes. That's 5 hours almost. Throughout the day, but I mean, I just kept getting back into a cold bed watching this show. I had a 3-day member guest golf tournament.
Okay, so you're a little beaten up.
I was beaten up, and I was like just taking a soft Sunday. But I'm now addicted to a television show that has terrible acting and terrible writing, but a great premise. It wants to be Ozark and Outer Banks.
Oh, I love that.
That's what it wants to be.
You watched Outer Banks?
Huh?
You actually watched Outer Banks?
No, I'm stealing from someone in the chat.
I actually watched Outer Banks.
But that was a brilliant comment. Right. It looks like Outer Banks because it is near the Outer Banks.
I watched Outer Banks. It's for 18-year-olds, but yeah.
Oh, my God. How do I'm looking for it. Nah, just get this unpinned here. But anyway, Mobland season 2, it's coming back.
Can you give me a little Pierce Brosnan?
Oh, God, his accent is really painful.
Can you give me a little?
It's not as bad as him singing in Mamma Mia. If you ever seen the movie Mamma Mia, he can't sing at all. I mean,
that's actually pretty good, though. But do him.
Eddie, get in here, Eddie. It's over the top, Eddie. It's too much. But Tom Hardy, I like the way, he talks in here, right? He says, Eddie, I'm going to tell you this one time, right? And his energy is very centered. Right.
But Bill, if you like Ray Donovan, you will love Mobland.
I do like Ray Donovan. He's the Irish.
And let me give, if you haven't watched Fauda, That's another. They have a similar gentleman in that show, Doran, who's it's an Israeli show.
Oh, I hear that.
And
yeah.
it's great.
It's like 5 years old, right?
Yeah, unbelievable if you haven't watched it.
Thing about Tom Hardy is I believe there's many tough guys like Jason Statham, very similar to Tom Hardy, same family. I bet they've been, ran into each other in an audition room or two way back in the day. But I believe Tom Hardy is that hard and that tough. I believe he walks out of that studio and, doesn't just go, like I say, wear black turtlenecks and smoke cigarettes with the other actors and and a set of Doc Marten boots and hang out with his thespian buddies. I think he actually goes and lifts and kicks ass and gets in fights.
Right.
I just think so.
Doc Martens.
Yeah, I believe him. Okay.